Hi, I'm Skip Bedell. Welcome to the Barron Designs interior faux wood panel installation video. Now these panels are the perfect product to transform any plain wall into a beautiful feature wall. They have all the look and feel of real vintage barn wood, including all the nicks and nail holes and grain, but the best part is they're made of lightweight, high-density polyurethane that's weatherproof, durable, and super easy to install. It couldn't be easier to get these installed on your own, and I'm going to show you how to do it in just a minute. But first, let's look at the tools you'll need to get the job done right. Be sure to have protective eyewear, T-square, level, a saw with a finished blade, laser line or chalk line, pencils and a tape measure, drill driver, screws, a T-bevel, caulk gun, Loctite PL construction adhesive, color match caulk, touch-up kit, painter's tape, a small paintbrush, and a clean rag. Before you start, you'll want to make sure your wall is structurally sound and in good condition. It's important to acclimate the panels by storing them in the installation location for at least 24 hours. Be sure to keep them away from any heat source or direct sunlight. So we're getting ready to install our barn wood panels, but before we do, it's really important that you prepare the wall. So as you can see, we have a fresh coat of primer on here. We took off some paneling that had some adhesive. We gave it a light sanding. We also removed a piece of baseboard heating here first. We're going to put our paneling on and then put that back. So the wall has to be clean, free of any debris and dust, so you have a nice surface to adhere your panels to. Now that we have that ready, we can go ahead and start making our measurements and get everything level and cut our first course. Every installation is unique, so you'll need to gather the right amount of materials. Typically, 1 tube of Loctite Premium PL 3X adhesive is needed for every 3 panels, and 1 tube of textured caulk is typically needed for every 4 panels installed. Now that we have all of our tools and materials gathered, we're ready to get our installation started. Orient one of your panels so that the flat lip on the long side is facing up. If the fingers are on the right side of the panel, the installation will run from right to left. If the fingers project to the left, then your installation will run left to right. It's always helpful to establish an order for the panels by laying them out prior to the installation process. Look at the variation in color and texture to make sure that no one section draws your eye. Next, you'll need to prepare the surfaces. Be sure that your wall is stable and in good condition. Wipe hard surfaces with a wire brush or sandpaper to remove any loose debris. Very important when we're installing these wall panels that the first course that we do is level on the top of this, because all the rest of these wall panels are going to sit level on top of this. Now, especially in older homes, it's very common that the floor might be settled and out of level. So you want to always make sure you check the level on your floor first. And as you can see, we are slightly out of level on this floor. So what I like to do is find the lowest point of the floor, and in this case, it's down this end, as the house is settled over time, and the lowest point is here. We can go ahead and mark that, and then we're going to have to cut the bottom of this panel. We might have to rip and take some of the material off, so when we adhere this first panel to the wall, the top edge is going to be level. The floor might be doing this, but our panel is going to be level, and that means all the rest of our panels working all the way up the wall will be level throughout our installation. So we'll go ahead and mark this, take it out to the saw, make some cuts, and bring it back in. In addition to that, we'll see that in our first course, we have a number of receptacles in the wall. And this is very common, as most walls will have electrical outlets on them. So we'll have to go ahead and mark this first course as well, and make some cuts in the panel to accommodate these electrical receptacles. Once we get the first course done, level and installed and cut out for the receptacles, the rest will be very easy to stack right and work all the way up the wall level. I went ahead and marked the top of the panel. Using my level, I can make a level line on the wall here. And if you have a chalk line, you can use that too to snap a straight line on the wall level. And that's where we're going to start the top of our panel. And then we're going to cut the floor, measure down and cut the floor out, rip it on the saw. So when we install our first course, the top is going to be level all the way across the wall. As you can see, the flat lip is facing up, and all the panels must have your flat lip facing in the upward direction. Okay, so this is the finger end. And this is the slot end over here, also having the flat lip on each one of those. That's where we're going to connect the next panel. So it's important for this first panel that we start by cutting off the finger, so we have a square edge that's going to go right into this wall. That's where we're going to start. So in addition to cutting that off, which we want to cut off about 1/4 of this panel to start with a square edge, we also have to make a hole in it for our receptacle. And I also have a cable here for cable TV coming through the wall that we'll have to drill a hole in. So we're going to take these measurements, take the panel outside to the saw and make our cuts, and then come back in and install our first panel. Now that the wall and panel is prepped, it's time to cut the first panel. You'll need to trim the first panel so it fits flush against the corner of the wall. Cutting from the finger side, cut approximately 1/4 of the panel off and save it so you can use it later on in your installation. During your installation, you might find it necessary that you'll have to cut a hole in the middle of your panel to accommodate a receptacle or possibly a light switch. To do this, transfer your measurements onto your panel with a tape measure and a pencil. Once you've got the hole marked out, you can start the hole with a drill bit and then use a jigsaw to simply cut the hole out. Now you're ready to install it over your receptacle. Now that I have my panel with one end cut square, I have the hole for the receptacle and also a hole drilled for the cable. We're going to go ahead and dry fit this to make sure it fits good. Cable, receptacle, and she looks good. Okay, there's our first panel. That's great. So now that I can see that it's dry fit and it looks good, we can go ahead and apply our adhesive and get ready to glue this to the wall. I have my first panel all set up with my receptacle hole, the hole drilled for the cable. Now it's important that we go back with our tack cloth because now we've made some cuts here, so we have sawdust on the panel. I want to wipe this whole panel down and make sure all the dust is off of here from the saws and from working on it. Once I got it clean with the tack cloth, we're going to go ahead and take our Loctite Premium PL. This is the 3X construction adhesive. And we're going to start with a square edge that goes into the corner. We're going to make a bead 1 inch back from the edge that goes into the corner. And then we're going to go every 3 inches on the whole panel. Then you also want to put a dab on each finger of the panel. Okay, now that we have our adhesive on the panel, we're ready to glue it to the wall. Now adhere the panel to the wall by applying firm and even pressure across the panel. Check to make sure the panel is level and lines up with your level line and also plumb with the edge of the wall. All right, there it is. There's our first one. Looking good already. Next, screw the panel to the wall by placing 1 screw per foot along the perimeter of the panel and 1 screw every square foot in the middle of the panel. Your screws should be slightly recessed, but be sure not to over tighten the screws. It's always a good idea to place the screws under any protruding slats to make them less noticeable. So now that we have screws along the lip every 12 inches and trim head screws every square foot throughout the panel, between the adhesive and the screws, this panel is now permanently installed and definitely here to stay. We're going to go ahead and repeat that process for every panel all the way up the wall. The last panel on the row will have to be trimmed from the finger side of the panel. Before cutting a new panel for this last piece, check to see if the first piece that you cut off the first panel will complete this last course. That'll help you reduce your waste. All right, so that completes our first course, and as you can see, it already looks amazing. We're going to repeat that process now all the way up the wall. Before installing each panel on the next row, apply a thin bead of adhesive to the top lip of the panel below. Here we go, the first piece of our second course. Now that's going to sit right up on top of the first lip and locks right in place. And as you can see, that sits down nice and tight, hiding the seam. And now the lip of our second course is facing up. And we're going to continue that process right down the wall and all the way up the wall until we're done. All right, we're about halfway done, and as you can see, our second course is completed. We've cut our pieces off and stopped right here at this plumb line that we marked earlier, as this is going to be a trim piece going around the door on all sides. So we stopped our barn wood panels right here. We'll continue up the wall and around the top of the door. A few more courses and then we'll be done. When you get to the top row, you'll most likely need to use your saw to trim the height of the panels to get a proper fit. Once you have all your panels installed, go back and fill in all the screw holes and any gaps with caulk. Be sure to clean all the excess caulk off with a damp cloth before it dries. Then, using the touch-up kit and a small paintbrush, match the color of the areas you've applied the caulk. And there it is, the completed faux barn wood feature wall using Barron Designs panels. For more detailed instructions or information about these panels or any of the other great products from Barron Designs, check out their website at barrondesigns.com.